Greetings everyone, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm your host, Captain Rye, and today's YouTube video comes from subscriber MrFingers. And MrFingers is playing in my favorite Tier 7 Premium Cruiser Armored Destroyer, the mighty Scharnhorst. It's the new Dawn map, it's Domination Match Mode, and the battle has been going on for about a minute and a half as we join MrFingers. There is an enemy cruiser that is broadside onto a battleship, but he is varying his speed up here, and so MrFingers' shots all miss him. A little disappointing, because it's always fun to wreck enemy cruisers, especially those that are broadside on. Now this cruiser is trying desperately to get behind the cover of that large island, and it looks like he is going to manage to do it, at least for the moment, saving him from the wrath of the battleship. The enemy team has managed to secure the A cap point. Well, MrFingers' team has managed to not secure any cap point. And speaking of broadside cruisers, this cruiser right here is backing up in the open, broadside on to a lot of angry ships downrange. If you're in a cruiser, please don't do that. Not in the open unless you're like a Perth with a smoke screen active. If you're going to do that, you know, try to bow on and do that. Or better yet, just stop firing your guns, drop off detectability, and then do that. But honestly, if you're out in the open, there's zero reason for you at all to be backing up. If you're behind an island, or there is an island that you can use for cover, I can understand that. I've certainly done that. But if you're out in the open, please, please don't just randomly stop and start backing up. Again, unless you have that smoke screen. MrFingers pushes up into the C cap point. He's taking some fire from the battleships that are over there. And he's got his guns pointed at that cruiser who's taken a lot of damage and manages to secure a first blood in the game. Surprisingly enough, it's taken this long to secure it, especially considering the low HP that cruiser had. Now, because he's the only person currently at the C cap point, all of the enemy ships are attacking him, and because of that, he's unable to cap. They're basically resetting him every single time they hit him. And arguably, they don't even have to hit him to reset them. The splash damage is enough to cause resets if they just graze or shatter on him. So he comes right up to this island here, and he's going to use this island as both concealment and to try and block shells. Now, with some cruisers, that's not going to work the best, because obviously they have rainbow arcs, so those shots are just going to fly over the islands and right down on them. However, what the island is doing is it's blocking line of sight to the ships that are off in the distance there. And that is what's really going to help him, because now that he's hidden, the enemy team can't really accurately land shots on him. They could take blind shots, sure, there's enough of them, somebody's bound to hit, but it's not really worth it when you've got other ships that you can shoot at. His team manages to secure the B cap point as they manage to take out yet another enemy ship, and because MrFingers is in a position where it's really kind of difficult for them to shoot at him, even though he's being targeted at this particular moment, the shots are not going to make it there quick enough to reset him, so he manages to secure that cap. Now he's got a cruiser off in the distance again. A broadside on cruiser is a wonderful, wonderful target of opportunity, especially for the Scharnhorst, because its guns not going to be able to necessarily citadel a battleship, except at close range, but certainly can citadel those cruisers. Again, one of the reasons why I prefer this ship over something like the Hood, mostly just because the guns, while trollish and horribly inaccurate, especially at ranges, give you a 20-second reload and have a little bit better penetration values on those guns dealing with things like cruisers. Now looking at the situation, there are a lot of different low health ships over here for MrFingers to shoot at. Now one of them is kind of riding the border there, and he was back behind that island, so not a particularly easy shot to make, but given the Scharnhorst's guns, it could have been done. But in this next little bit of the replay here, we're going to see some examples of kind of missed opportunities. I don't necessarily want to say that they're, bad examples of, what not to do or what to do, but certainly there was some missed opportunity to secure additional kills and take guns out of the game. Right now, MrFingers is focusing down this low health cruiser, and that is one of those things that should absolutely be done if you're in the Scharnhorst. You've got a cruiser, yeah, he's running away from you, he's maneuvering, but you've got that quick reload every 20 seconds, and the Scharnhorst is definitely death by 1,000 cuts. So you can just sit here and work on this guy until he's got nothing left. And this is where we come down to the first missed opportunity. MrFingers switches over to this Gneisenau for his primary targeting, when what he should be doing is finishing off that cruiser. Why do you want to finish off a ship like that? Well, number one, he's still in the game, which means his guns can still set you on fire. They can still finish off low health ships. They can still Citadel cruisers. Two, you kill him, your team gets more points, and right now the enemy team is in the process of capping the B cap point. And three, the enemies that still have him there means that he is a target that can be shot at by your team, taking the focus of attention away from other ships. And again, MrFingers missing the opportunity to snag and secure that kill before he disappears behind the island. And that guy is still alive, but now he's behind the island. He does finally get taken out by a friendly teammate. But this is one of those points that I want to make absolutely clear. If you've got a situation like that where you end up leaving a ship on such low health, put the poor man out of his misery and just finish him off and get that secured kill. He's got himself yet another cruiser here who's beached himself and backed off and now turned broadside on, and you know what they say, broadside on cruisers, that's a paddling. Manages to seriously put the hurt on this cruiser as he's trying the same maneuver that that other cruiser tried, and that's to get behind that island. But he's going to have a real hard time of it here, although he is going to keep up the maneuvering. But again, it's important to remember in this situation that you should, while he's visible and a viable target, keep up the fire on this guy, because you want his guns removed from the game as quickly as possible, and preferably as completely as possible. Just because removing him from the game will grant your team more points, drop the enemy's score, but also remove the number of guns that can shoot back at you. MrFingers coming up here, he's not really trying to turn hard, and I'm actually kind of surprised that he's willing to get this close to the island. But he does turn, he does avoid beaching himself, which is always a good thing. The Scharnhorst, not particularly the best ship for trying to reverse. She's no Dunkirk, she's not going to go the opposite direction at high speeds. And she does tend to change direction even after she beaches herself really, really slowly. That enemy cruiser, speaking of beaching, if you look at the minimap, has almost beached itself again. But, oh, no, wait, yes, he has beached himself, and now he's also broadside on. So MrFingers going to get shots off there. This is an example of target prioritization, taking out that cruiser who's an obviously preferable target. That's kind of what I would have liked to see have happened with that Pensacola, just finishing him off with a couple more salvos, rather than focus your attention on the Gneisenau, who, to be honest, while you could have done some pretty good damage, and you did do some reasonable damage, at those kinds of angles, at that kind of range, the Gneisenau is going to take you a lot longer to deal with. Now, if he was closer, I'd say torpedo him. But because he wasn't close enough to torpedo and was turning away, you should have finished off that other cruiser. Looking at the situation, the enemy team holds 2 of the cap points. They've managed to pull the teams back just a little bit here and equal out the score situation. But because the enemy team has 2 cap points, they are currently up on points and they're gaining more points. This is something that I always try and remind people. Remember, people, capping wins games. If you don't get in there and secure those cap points, you're not going to win. The enemy team could be complete trash and they could completely disintegrate on your team, but if you don't get up there and actually cap those locations, well, that's how you get people who end up with solo warriors. Because they're the last guy on a stupid team, but the team managed to cap, and your team just didn't want to get aggressive and push up, so you have no points and they have all of the points, and you're not going to find him before, surprise, the end of the match. MrFingers is starting to push up into the B cap point. He does manage to secure yet another kill on an enemy cruiser, and he's got 2 enemy battleships up here. A little bit of a replay bug here. He's actually targeting the New York that's right behind the island, just cresting the headland there, and that New York is danger close, point blank. He takes a big hit from the New York, but that's no surprise. Those are 14-inch guns at these kinds of ranges, and he's kind of a little bit broadside on, but manages to secure the kill with torpedoes. Now, I'm not entirely sure if that battleship fully realized that the Scharnhorst has torpedoes or not, but he certainly didn't make all that much of an effort to slam on his brakes and turn into them, which probably would have saved him just that split second longer, as he would have only eaten 1 instead of 2. Now, he's taken a lot of damage here, and you'll notice that he's got no more heals left, which means he can't repair this damage. And again, that's an incredibly problematic situation to be in, because now every single piece of damage that you take, every fire that gets set on you, is a serious health concern and a serious hazard to your well-being. MrFingers, though, is the only one who's in the B cap point, and yet again, that makes him a priority target for the enemy team. This Gneisenau is incredibly low health as those torpedoes come towards MrFinger, but they run out of steam before they reach him, which is good for him. Of course, he also turned anyway, so they probably would have missed. But if they had hit, well, it would have been the end of the story for MrFingers. That Gneisenau is pushing away. He's trying to get behind the island up there. He's recovering some health, and that's going to be a little bit of a problem considering how low health he was. But I think it's important to pay attention again to the fact that MrFingers has got himself no repairs left. So he does absolutely have to be careful. And honestly, I would not want to be broadside on to either of these battleships. Their gun ranges are pretty good, and if you can see and shoot at them, the odds are they can see and shoot at you. Now, there is a cruiser that's back behind him there. That cruiser is a potential problem, but MrFingers opts to focus on the battleships, partly because he can keep the islands between himself and that cruiser, but also because those battleships are currently not paying attention, and because his other teammates are able and in position to deal damage to that cruiser. The enemy team has managed to, again, pull those team scores back just that little bit more, and it's a 3 versus 4 situation. Now, all the ships are pretty much damaged at this point, so it's pretty equal, and if the enemy ships manage to focus down and rally, they could probably kill at least 2 more ships and keep those scores pretty equal. Again, a little bit of a replay bug here. MrFingers has got torpedoes out on that other battleship as he closes to secondary range with that guy, and this could be a serious problem because, remember, he's got no more heals left, and every single fire that gets set could potentially end him. He does manage to secure the kill for a Kraken Unleashed, and then secures a double strike on guns on the enemy Gneisenau in the distance there, securing 6 kills in this battle and doing a really good amount of damage. And now, at this point, there's only one enemy ship left, and he's all by himself. But again, remember, MrFingers is very low health, and if that cruiser back there really wanted to, he could probably take out that friendly ship with his armor piercing, but also set MrFingers on fire and possibly burn him down. There's not a lot of time left in this battle, but MrFingers is still going to head up towards the A cap point anyway, just in case the enemy cruiser there does manage to secure a kill and keep the battle going just a little bit longer. But if you look at the points difference now, really all his team has to do is survive, and they win. That cruiser going to go ahead and start border riding. He's just outside of his range here, but it looks like he's turned in, so he's headed this direction just ever so slightly, but still outside of the range. And the only real question is, are they going to win on points? Is the clock going to run out, or are they going to kill him? Well, they do manage to secure victory, and just look at that. Not the highest score I've ever seen in the Scharnhorst, but 129,000 damage done. What's more impressive is that he's earned himself a double strike, a Confederate, a First Blood, a Dreadnought, and a Kraken Unleashed. It would have been nice to see a high caliber in there, but with the lower score, probably not the most likely. Top of the team for XP earned at well over 2,000 base XP. Really high up there, and a really good battle, really well done, with the exception of that Pensacola there midway through and missing the secured kill opportunity for 7 kills on that. Overall, a fantastic battle, and thank you for submitting the replay, MrFingers. That's it for today's video, folks. If you liked the video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment down below. If you'd like to get semi-regular channel news and updates, you can do so by liking and following me on Facebook. If you'd like to help support me in the channel, I encourage you to do so by becoming my supporter on Patreon. If you've got a replay like this one that you'd like to see featured on my YouTube channel, you can send it to my email. And if you'd like to watch me play World of Warships live, usually on Sundays at 10 a.m., you can do so by following me on Twitch. I also do live streaming in the mornings on the weekdays at 6 and 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time now. You can find the links for all of those in the video description down below. And as always, I'll see you next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.